all your stuff. What can figure it out? That's how it chooses you.
Hey, Claire.
Hello, Teresa. Everyone, welcome to It Chooses You Smidgen Edition.
That's right, the Smidgen edition this week, featuring Claire and Teresa. Never features anyone else, so don't have any anxiety about that. It's never going to be anyone but Claire and Teresa.
I wanted to tell you and our listeners something that I've been thinking about and didn't mention on last week's Smidgen, which is that the wildlife out here on our 80 acres have been really active.
Springtime.
It's been super cool. So we have a few herds of antelope that have been spending a lot of time on our property.
Nice.
And also a few coyotes as well.
Sure.
As you can guess, those two sometimes clash. And the other day, as I've said, there are no trees out here, no full-grown trees, which means there are no sticks out here. So the other day when I was walking with my dog Sage and she picked up a stick, I was immediately suspicious. And I watched her run around with the stick for a while.
So happy.
Yes, so happy.
Thrilled.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes, life is good. And I was initially suspicious, but then I just lulled myself into some sort of fantasy in which this was somehow a stick.
Yep.
And eventually went to pick it up as she left it on the ground so I could throw it for her to chase. I picked it up and the hoof just flipped down.
Yep.
Like a, you know.
Yep.
And I realized I was touching a fur.
Yep.
Then I realized I was holding an antelope leg.
The circle of life.
And then I screamed and threw it down to the ground and ran around like a crazy person. And then came into the house and washed my hands.
Holding it and then
like
dipped your
2
hand
minutes.
into bleach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I bleached my hand. Oh, she was so happy, I bet she's like, oh my gosh, all the smells on this, it's a little bit rotten. Oh, I bet she was just in heaven.
The other funny thing is that I then, in horror, texted all the other people that live here to let them know. And one of them, our resident electrical engineer, texted me back and said, "Save it for me. That sounds so cool."
Oh.
So I wrote him back and said, "Buddy, it's all yours." So he's now in possession of the antelope leg.
Wow. Well, I mean, it would certainly be interesting to see how the joint is put together. Finding it in the wild is a little different than having it pre-cleaned and available in a lab for me to touch, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Lord.
This was halfway decayed and disgusting.
Yeah. I bet I've never seen a dog as happy as Sage was when she had that thing. I'm amazed she ever put it down, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't try and bring it in the house.
She did have a moment where she thought it was possible, and then she looked at my face and was like, "Oh shit, that's not happening."
She's like, monkeys. The monkeys don't like the antelope hooves.
That's right.
Monkeys don't like antelope legs. Only dogs like antelope legs.
That's right. It's just nature as hell out here, Teresa.
Yeah, you're living in nature. Yeah, that's right. In a way, I'm definitely not in my cozy condo on my suburban street. Well, I hope you will continue to give us updates about your farm life. So please download our episodes and subscribe to our podcast, review us and rate us and do all of those things because we want to share our stories and our perspectives with as many people as possible. And you help us do that. Thank you. Today on Smidgen, Claire, I'm going to give you a smidgen of Stardew Valley.
Yeah. Oh, be still my heart.
Yes.
I'm so happy right now.
Yeah, so it's a completely wonderful video game. If you don't know what it is, it's available on Steam and other places. I'm sure you can find it. Stardew Valley is its title. And I wanted to talk about it because I feel like an early adopter of this game. And I often think I get to places before other people get there, but my memory of it is that I came to your house at one point and I was like, I've been playing this game and I can't stop thinking about cantaloupe.
Electric cantaloupe is what you told me.
Yes, I'm like harvesting electric melons. Yes, exactly.
100% you were on the crest of that wave because you were talking about this game, I swear to God, it was like 7 years ago, Teresa. I started playing last year, so I'm super late to the party.
Yeah. So it came out. It's Concerned Ape is the person who developed it, and I think it's a one-man job. Like, I think he coded the whole thing. It came out in the spring of 2016, and I think I bought it in March of 2016.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, because I looked at how many hours I've played, and I would hate to think that I've played that many hours in just the last couple of years. It's slightly embarrassing, and I'm not going to tell you how many. My memory is that I got this game, and I was trying like lots of little fun, light games in Steam. You know, games that sort of have 8 levels and are just a really interesting concept and aren't super complicated, and this definitely is one of those. It's a simple concept and simple to play. But I was playing it and talking to you about it, and I realized through the act of playing this game that there were things about my life that I wanted to change. And somehow the game not only gave me sort of that zoned out but conscious headspace to think through some midlife shit, but also, you know, fun escapism on the lighter side, right? And so that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it ended up being a very important game in my life. It sort of has defined a period of my life in a way that I would not expect a 16-bit game to do.
Yeah.
You know, in my 40s. When I bought this game, I was in academic administration at a university. And I did not like my job. My memory of that time, like, I remember having a hard time, and I remember specifically coming to you to your house, which was 2 blocks away from my office, really often. Like, more than... I think looking back, you were more tolerant than a friend could be expected to be of my... Claire, I just have to tell you how horrible it is. And you were, like, unfailingly supportive, but also had good boundaries. You're like, some days you just couldn't. You're just like, I don't have it today. I'm sorry. And, like, this is a note for our listeners. If you have friends who are not willing to deal with your emotional sadness and your frustration and your what am I doing with my life stuff, what you have are not friends. They are acquaintances at best and emotional leeches at worst who only want you happy. And they want you happy for their own reasons. So I'll just say that. And I'll say that Claire is a stellar example of a real friend, because she tried to understand where I was coming from. She tried to, like, offer solutions. And my solution at the time was to smoke a lot of weed and play video games. So, like, her choices that she was offering me were sort of better than the ones I was making for myself. And it took me a while to realize that. Do you remember this time that I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Do you believe, am I characterizing it in a way that feels right to you?
I think so. I was always delighted to see you, but you were working through that theme of I hate my job. And God, that's a huge theme. You know, like, we've all been there. Yeah. And nobody has easy solutions for that. So I'm sure I was experiencing some level of frustration in seeing my friends suffering in that way. Yeah. I will also say that on occasion it worked in my favor. And one time, Tim and I had the swine flu. We were deathly ill. And I knew you worked 2 blocks away, and I called you begging you to bring us some Gatorade, which you very kindly did. Yeah. Literally threw it in our bedroom and said, "Oh, you poor fuckers," and walked out. It was amazing. So I benefited. Also, I will say to all our listeners who don't know, Teresa is also delightfully entertaining even when she's suffering, and sort of circumspect and witty about her circumstances even when they're difficult. So no matter what, she was always entertaining.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to hear that. I have been concerned that I was a giant weight. Yes, I remember the swine flu. I also remember Tim dislocating his knee.
Yeah.
And having to go to the hospital. That was great, though, because I got to miss like 4 hours of work for a legitimate reason.
Yeah, you helped. Yeah, that was amazing.
And he got to hang out with Tim on propofol at the hospital. Amazing.
Oh, Lord.
Amazing. Anyway, yes, this job had turned difficult. I liked it for a long time because I had a very good boss and I was a member of a high-functioning team and I felt like we were accomplishing something. It was beautiful. And as the way of academia, you know, as the wheel turns, the dean, it was his time to be dean was over and a new dean was appointed, and the person who was appointed is very, very bad at their job and also actively malevolent and really skilled at gaslighting. And so a situation where I had a good time at work, even though I knew it wasn't sort of what I wanted to be doing with my life in all caps, you know, turned disastrous in sort of the course of 3 weeks. It just, everything fell apart. So anyway, when life is unpleasant, I turned to escapes. And my escape at this point was Stardew Valley. It's a very gentle game, okay? Yeah. The premise is that you have inherited... So you have received something through no effort of your own, which is always just the best, right? You've inherited a neglected farm from your grandpa, and it's in the country, and you move to the country from the city, and you try to learn how to farm. and you try to make friends, and you start a new life. The music is very slow paced, and the graphics move very slowly, and even the fights are chill. If you want to see what this game looks like and hear someone who's very funny talk about it, Felicia Day records herself playing it and posts it on YouTube. And I think it's just called Felicia Day Plays Stardew Valley.
It's incredibly entertaining. I've watched hours of that.
Yes, Claire has mentioned it to me, which is why I know about it. Thank you. So please check that out. So as soon as I started playing this game, I quickly realized that all I wanted to do was play this game. Because life is very simple in Stardew Valley. You plant 8 corn plants, and you water them, and then you go to town to buy seeds that you will sow in the next season. And then maybe you have conversations with people in town, and maybe you make things for them and give them gifts so that they like you and you can make friends. And then you go home and you sleep. And it's just the simplest, most beautiful day. I mean, sure, there are aliens that help you rebuild a community center, and there are monsters in the mine, and flaming skulls, and sure, there's a wizard that you have to befriend, and a witch you have to avoid, or she'll make your chickens lay void eggs. But apart from those things, life is very simple in Stardew Valley.
That's true. That's true.
One of the first tasks you have to complete is actually ousting the capitalist owners of a crappy price gouging grocery store. So, I mean, immediately I was like, I am into this world. I want to live here.
What was it, besides the simplicity of Stardew Valley, what was it that the game was providing you that was sort of an antidote for what you were experiencing in life at the time?
It's perfect timing. You're always right with me, because my very next little paragraph here is there's something so pleasing about having very simple problems to solve and then solving them. And that's it. I need to water the cantaloupes today. Oh, look, I've watered the cantaloupes.
Yeah.
That's it. If you water them every day, they get bigger, and in 19 days or whatever, you harvest them, and then you sell them. Amazing.
I found the game last year, and I have been playing the game through the pandemic. So very similarly, I have this huge uncontrollable circumstance, which is the coronavirus, right? And lack of leadership and all the fear and isolation. And so I have played it through the pandemic and sort of found the same thing, that it's this sense of pleasure, control in this very simple but rich world, right?
Yeah. You know, I was having trouble at work, and so many work situations are challenging because we don't have autonomy at work. But in Stardew Valley, I'm fully in charge, man. I mean, I'm in charge of, like, remembering to water the 16-bit chickens so that they don't die, which is a little dark. Or remembering to figure out how to feed them through the winter when they can't graze. Do chickens graze? Is that what we say? Forage? Graze?
Forage, yeah.
Forage, yeah. But, you know, if I failed, there's no one responsible but me. And no one was blaming me but me.
Right.
So it's like the opposite of a job. I was held accountable for my own failures and no one else's. It was kind of magical.
There's also enough, you kind of referenced this, but there's enough, like, just weird things in the game.
Yeah.
You know, like the void eggs, right? Well, I have a mayo maker, and I have all the regular chickens, but now I need a void chicken. And this void chicken is going to make void mayo, which only one character in the game likes. But
two,
because it's Sebastian too, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's how I courted him, is I gave him void mayo.
Yeah, only 2 characters in the game like void mayo, but it's like, I'm gonna do it because I can, and it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
You know, my farm has regular chickens and a blue chicken and a dinosaur and a void chicken. You know, those are just novelties, you know.
Those weird things are my favorite, and it plays it straight. It plays it like it's just a normal farm world.
It's true.
On the surface, right? And then you scratch just a little bit, and you're like, wait a minute, this is definitely a wizard's house. And then you meet the wizard, and you're like, oh, and then he starts talking about his ex-wife, and then you realize that his ex-wife is a witch that lives in the swamp that's north of town. And it's just, so it's like those human social relationships, but it's wizards and witches and a shadow creature who lives in the sewer. So one of the other things that's great about it is that you have to learn how to do things, which is good about any game. It's something I like about any game anyway. So you have to learn how to fish. And the fish it's hard. It's actually really challenging, fishing. You have to learn how to fight, because the flaming skulls in the mine are not going to kill themselves. You have to learn how to make friends, even though there's very limited conversational options, right? So it's like you have to figure out how to generate love between your character and these other characters, but you can't talk about anything, really. And so you have to figure out by trial and error or by looking it up online what they like, and then just basically give them presents until they love you.
Action-based friendship.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's love language is gifts in this town. Every single person. And it's there, like I said, there's some darkness. Like there's a family who lives in a trailer, and she's the person who drives the bus, and she very much enjoys a beer. The man who breeds the blue chickens you mentioned is just very clearly an alcoholic. Like so many times. Poor Shane.
Shane.
Poor Shane. I'd just be like, oh, he's very attractive and he's really into chickens, which is fascinating. Also, he lives just really close to me, and so that makes it easy because I'm lazy in love, even in video games.
One of the most delightful things about Felicia Day's Stardew Valley stream is that she plays with Amy Okuda, who's an actress. And Amy's relationship with Shane makes the entire stream worth it.
Okay.
She's obsessed with Shane, and at a certain point, things take a turn, and she marries him and very quickly decides, oh, no. Like, as though it were surprising who he is, right?
Yeah. It's one of the things I like best. It's that you marry a person, and then they're still exactly who they were when you were dating. I ended up chasing after Sebastian because I liked his haircut. And we've been married several years and have 2 children together. And he still, almost once a week, will say, I just can't talk to you today. I'll see you after dark. And then he just goes away for the whole day, leaving me with a farm to run and 2 children, which, that's a thing. Luckily, the game doesn't actually make you take care of your kids. Otherwise, it would just be a slog really fast. So I'm grateful for that. Thanks, Concerned Dave. But yeah, I married Sebastian, and he's still like, look at the bats in the moonlight. Oh, they're so amazing. He's still the same emo bastard I married, even though he has 2 kids. And the loving things he does for me are like sometimes he'll water the crops in the morning, which, by the way, I have a sprinkler system, Sebastian. You don't do anything to water the crops. It happens automatically. I've saved up for the iridium sprinklers, okay? Yeah, so marriage in the video game is very much like my relationships outside of the video game in that way.
There is something comforting that even the people remain the same, right? It's predictability. It's low risk. I'm glad that someone tried to marry Shane because I honestly thought about it. I was like, well, maybe I can change him. That's pretty much Amy Okuda's attitude the whole time. She every little glimmer of hope, but then followed with him being literally passed out drunk on the ground.
Yeah, with vomit on him. Like, oh God, yeah. So after the first time I was like, oh, I see. He has a passion. He has those blue chickens he breeds, right? He has a passion. But that's the only thing he's capable of actually caring about are the chickens. So I'm glad I made the choice to marry the emo kid who lived in his parents' basement. I mean, but this is actually one of the only problems, quote unquote problems with the game for me, is that there are no appealing romantic relationships. None of them, like there's a narcissist who lives on the beach, presumably so he can continue to have beach waves all the time. There's a dumb jock who also lives with his parents. I tried to flirt with the ladies. I don't even know if anything other than heterosexual relationships are allowed. Because I never got anywhere.
I'm married to a woman.
Oh, good. Okay.
My character's a woman, and I'm married to a woman. I married Abigail.
Oh, she's okay. Yeah.
She's great. She has purple hair.
Yeah.
And she's got an adventurous spirit. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's very stylish. She likes gifts of linen.
No, that's Emily.
Oh, that's Emily. Who's Abigail?
Yeah. Abigail is the one who's Pierre's daughter.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
She goes down into the mines, and she's cool.
She's badass. That's cool.
Okay. I am happy with my choice of wife.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. There's some people I really wanted to be friends with, and I just couldn't be asked to give them enough presents to make that happen. I had this goal. I was like, I'm going to make everyone have 10 hearts for me, right? Mm-hmm. This is the narcissist in me. Everyone must love me. And I got through like 5 or 6, and I was like, that's enough. Which is, again, exactly how I behave in the game is exactly how I behave in real life. I want everyone to love me. Oh, only 4 people do? That's enough. That's fine. I can't really talk to more than that at a time anyway. It's totally fine. Learning how to fish and how to fight and, make friends. I also, in that process, figured out that I need to do something else for money. I really was using my time playing this game to subconsciously work through, a bunch of changes I wanted to make in my life. And of course, I realized this 5 years later, because the reason change is so hard for me anyway is that I often don't know that I'm changing until I have changed. Like in the process, I get really unclear about what's going on. All I know is it's uncomfortable, right? And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, that's what I was doing. Oh, that's what that was about. Like figuring it out in arrears, you know? I figured out that I needed to stop working in the place where I was working because I started taking vacation days to play Stardew Valley. I started taking vacation days, and then when I ran out of vacation days, I started just saying, I don't have any more vacation days left, but I can't come in today, so we can figure that out with HR and with payroll or whatever. You don't need to pay me, but I am not going to be in today. Which I feel like if everyone was just honest about how often they just can't fucking go to work, how it's just like, I just can't today. I just can't today. And if people were more accepting, if people on the boss level, you know, were more accepting of the fact that like being a worker in a capitalist society sucks, and everyone is trying to figure out how not to do that. Like that's right. That's the thing we all have in common, is we're trying to figure out how not to work. But when you work on something that's fun, it's a completely different experience, right? And so, you know, there's this like all kinds of cliches about finding work you love and all of that, whatever. And of course, I still haven't done that, but just moving in the direction of doing something. Like, how am I spending the hours of my life is ultimately what it came down to. And Stardew Valley really helped me not only see that I was playing too many hours of video games, which is true, but also if I'm going to be doing something 8 hours a day, like in permaculture, it needs to serve more than one purpose. It can't just be money. It has to be other things, or it's not worth it. And so I credit Stardew Valley. I credit my experience with Stardew Valley for that. And seeing it in a real way, because as an adult, I think that was the first time when I was ditching work to play video games. And I was like, well, this is a new experience for me. I don't think I've ever done this before. I must be in new territory somehow. So you've been playing it this year.
Mm-hmm. Just this last year or so.
What is your favorite part of the game?
I mean, I think it's exactly what you said, which is the ability to progress, to see you didn't say that. I realize that.
It's fine. Put words in my mouth. I love it.
I think it's the predictability of the game, as you referenced, the ability to feel like you're in control of something, but then also to be able to progress and see yourself progress. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, because you start out with very little in the game and you need to clean up the property, you know, knock out the boulders and the trees and things like that. And then you only have a certain amount of money. And so you need to go buy seeds, and then you sell those things and you make things easier for you. There's just a lot of built-in goals.
Yes. Small goals. Oh, that's totally it. It's small goals. And it's also, the game in some way teaches you how to make change in your life, right? I think we talked a little bit, I think last episode, about how I want a product to change my life forever. And that's not what products are for. Right. But the thing that actually does change your life forever is daily accretion of small changes, right? And the game actually demands that of you. Like, that's how you have to play it, at least for the first 6 or 7 years in the game, you know?
It probably provides a similar level of comfort as Animal Crossing. I've never played that game, but that game has also been very popular on Nintendo during the pandemic. People are really getting a sense of comfort out of the routine in the game. You have, as a game developer, you have to create a really fine balance of predictability, but also setting those goals. And then, like I said, throwing in just a couple batshit things that are fun, like blue chickens.
Like blue chickens. Or finally, the last time I hopped back in, I was finally at a high enough level and had a fast enough computer, honestly, to go to the second mine and start getting some really valuable stuff from there.
Oh, yeah. That one's cool.
That's a good one. Anyway, so Stardew Valley, if you're going through a time of change or you're feeling out of sorts and you're not sure why, maybe hook yourself up with Stardew Valley and play it for a little bit and see if it helps you figure anything out, because it has for many people we know.
It's a delightful game.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me tell you about it, even though you already know about it.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm so glad you covered that topic.
The best game ever. Makes me want to go play it.
It just gives me warm, fuzzy feelings.
It's completely lovely. All right. Well, that's the Smidgen this week, everybody.
Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next episode, and have a great week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Testing? Great. Thank you for listening to It Chooses You. Your hosts are Teresa Sparks and Claire Patton. Our theme song is by Bobby Dart. If you'd like to get in touch with us, drop us an email at itchoosesyoupodcast@gmail.com.